Hi, this is the Duchess of Easton again. And today's lesson is probably the most important lesson I can teach you. The punctuation is definitely necessary, and spelling definitely counts. And all the mechanical stuff in writing does matter. But remember way back at the beginning, I said there were three things: clear, concise, and correct. The first two really go together. In order to be clear, something really does have to be concise. Thomas Jefferson once wrote, "If I had more time, I would write you more briefly." And that's extremely meaningful because it means it takes time to really synthesize what it is you want to tell someone. And the whole point of writing is communication. You're not communicating when you're adding just a whole bunch of words. We do it when we talk all the time. Air is free. Time is usually free. Very seldom are we in that much of a rush to tell somebody something. If we are, we just blurt it out, but we don't use a lot of words to do it. We condense it as much as possible. Unfortunately, you have not been taught that. Right from the very beginning, you were taught to write as many words as possible. If you ever had an assignment that said 500 words or 750 words, that was the worst thing they could have done to you, because it made the emphasis on the number of words, on the quantity, not the quality. And the lesson that I'm going to teach you today is going to seem very strange, because we don't worry about making things concise when we talk. And news broadcasts, especially the 24-hour ones, have to fill a certain amount of time. And they've only got just so much news. So they'll expand things, they'll say things. So everything that I teach you today is going to sound fine, but I'm going to show you why it's not. Now I can take this off now. Although I do really like it. Makes my hair look better. So what I'm going to teach you, again, it's going to sound fine. If I said to you, for example, "What an unexpected surprise," that sounds perfectly fine. Except every surprise is unexpected. That's called wordiness. All right? You don't need the word unexpected when you've used the word surprise. If I said to you, "It's brown in color," could it be brown in anything else? Brown is a color. You don't need to add that. If I said it's square in shape, well, it can't be square in anything else. Now, again, you've been encouraged to do this with these assignments that were number-based, but it's wrong. When you get out in the real world, even think about yourself, but think about your boss, think about the people you work with. They don't want to waste time having to read extra words. And you don't want to have to waste time reading extra words. Nobody needs to tell you brown is a color. You know that already. Something like completely empty sounds fine. But empty means empty. If it's almost empty, you'd say that. If all you need to say is "it's empty," meaning it's empty. At this point in time, this is one of the ones I think news broadcasters have brought up. You could say "at this point," you could say "at this time," or better yet, you could say "now." It gets across the idea a lot faster. 9 a.m. in the morning. Well, there's no 9 p.m. in the morning. 9 in the morning means a.m. All right? In my personal opinion, first of all, your opinion is personal. If it's your opinion, it's personal. And secondly, I would avoid using phrases like "in my opinion," unless somebody asked for your opinion. Otherwise, I'd stick to the truth, not just opinion. That's just me. In the month of August, okay, how many people weren't aware that August is a month? Advanced planning. Can you plan when it's over? Advanced planning is redundant. Redundant means you're saying the same thing twice. All right? If you're planning something, it's going to be in the future. You can't plan it from the past. At a later date. Would you talk like that? I'll see you at a later date. Later, dude. That's all you need. Just later. It's enough. This one also is going to sound really strange, but ask a question is not necessary. If it's a question, you have to ask it. So all you would do is you might say, I have a question, or I question something, but you don't have to ask a question. A question is asking. It's redundant. One of my favorites, combine together. If you combine two things, what do? You put them together. So the word combine is enough. Each and every, I want each and every one of you, one or the other. Each of you, every one of you, not both. You don't need it. Another one of my favorites, the end result. Where does the result come? It's at the end. So all you need to do is say the result. Due to the fact that, one of the favorites of students everywhere who needs to write a 500-page paper. I was late due to the fact that, I think you have to be born in Brooklyn to really say it right, due to the fact that. It means because. Use because. And I know for those of you who are counting words, it's terrible to use one word where there are 5 available, but the 5 available are not necessary. Now this is a serious crisis. How many crises aren't? If it's a crisis, it's serious. If it's not a crisis, it might be a serious situation, but a crisis is automatically serious. There's another one that you'll hear on TV all the time. Call now for your free gift. All gifts are free. If you've been paying for your gifts, you've been getting robbed. If your parents have been, presenting you with a bill after each Christmas saying, by the way, this is how much you owe us for the gifts. Gifts are free. But commercials like to use the word free because it gets people's attention. Don't make the same mistake. Sufficient enough. Sufficient means that's enough. 2 different kinds, and I used to do that all the time until I read this lesson years ago. 2 different kinds. Well, if they weren't different, they wouldn't be 2 kinds. All you need is 2 kinds. This is a mindset. This is something that when you really start to think about what words you're choosing, what it is you want to say, this is really getting to the deep stuff, believe it or not. Now, my computer did pick up on some of these and put a little green line under it, the dotted line saying, the grammar's not great, but it didn't pick up on all of them. So don't always trust your computer. Very unique. Very unique. Unique means one of a kind. You can't get any more unique than unique. And I would be very tempted to tell you to avoid the word very. There's always a better way of saying it. Well, it was very hot. How about it was steamy? It was stifling. It was boiling. It was very hot. It's very, very hot. get rid of the word vary. It's a 4-letter word. Just think of it that way. Basic fundamentals. Fundamental means basic. Okay? You can't get any more fundamental than fundamental, so you don't need basic fundamentals. Surrounded on all sides. What's the word surrounded mean? On all sides. You don't need to say the same thing twice. Okay? Now, fewer in number. Let me explain the difference to you between fewer and less. Fewer is something that you can count. So if you say there are fewer people here than there were yesterday, that means there are fewer. You don't need fewer in number. Fewer means in number. Less, however, is for something that you can't count. So I made up a sentence that said there are fewer crunchies in the dog bowl and less water than they need. You could count the crunchies, you can't count water. So water is less. Crunchies are fewer. Okay. Now, you've written sentences like this all your life, and it's going to come as a shock to tell you that you've been using too many words, but I'm going to do it anyway. A sentence like, he is a man who is honest. Could you get that sentence down to fewer words? I can. He's honest. We're going to assume he's a man unless you've said he was an orangutan earlier. So instead of saying he is a man who is honest, you can just say he's honest. And it says the same thing, only better, clearer, more concise. She is a person who always keeps her promises. How about she's reliable? There's a good one. Now, here's a sentence that, again, and people do this a lot of times to make it sound like they know a lot of words. Again, they've been encouraged to do this. And when I started teaching technical writing and started realizing that in technical writing, they don't want extra words. But if you'll read things like this from announcements from the school or in the paper sometimes, a sentence like this, the construction company actually worked on that particular building for a period of 6 long months. Well, first off, are there any 6 short months? I mean, a month is a month. Yes, some have a little bit few more days than others, but no. Here's the sentence the way it should be. The construction company worked on that building for 6 months. And I've had students say, but that doesn't say what, it gets out the garbage. And that's what you want to do. Take out the garbage, take out the fluff, take out the stuff that, it's time to write an essay, pull the boots on, get out the shovel and start shoveling. No, that the construction company worked on that building for 6 months. Gets the idea across. It's clear, it's concise, and it is also correct. I've always enjoyed this one. I'm afraid that I've been unable to complete the report that I had been assigned. 3 words. I'm unprepared. Air is free. When we talk, we can use as much of it as we want, and we can take as long as we want, and we can tell long stories, and stories are terrific for using lots and lots of words. But when it comes to writing, unless you're writing fiction, if you're writing nonfiction, if you're writing business, if you need to say more, your assignment's not long enough, include more facts. Don't add more fluff. And think about things like 2 different kinds, which I'd never thought about before. But if they weren't 2 kinds, if they weren't different, they wouldn't be different, they wouldn't be 2 kinds. So start thinking about the words you use, the word choice. Don't use big words, pompous words, unless you really need to. If it's a technical paper that you're writing and you need to use technical terms for it, do. But you'll be writing it for an audience that understands those terms. Don't think that better writing is writing that uses pompous words. You know, what my father used to call 50-cent words instead of normal 25-cent words. To say something obfuscates something sounds great. Sounds like I know a big word, but do you understand what I just said? No. But obfuscate is a word, and it means to cloud, to make unclear, to hide something by using words. That's obfuscate. Superfluous. That's what I've been telling you about all along. These words are superfluous. They don't mean anything. They're extra. But we don't use words like superfluous and obfuscate in the spoken language. So keep your writing as close as possible to the way you would say it if you were giving a speech to, somebody important, your boss. All right? Don't use big words. I'm not saying go back to, see Dick and Jane run, but for example, and I'll leave you with this one, I hate the word utilize. I hear it all the time. Well, we utilized. What's wrong with use? It's much nicer sounding. And I'd much rather say I used a spoon than I utilized a spoon. Heck, it rhymes with brutalize. It doesn't prove that you're smarter. It just proves that you really picked an ugly word. All right, so think about the words that you write. When you brainstorm as you start out, use anything you want. But when you do your final copy, think about what it would sound like if you read it out loud. And make it sound like a human being reading it, not a robot. And try to pick words that are clear and concise and correct. And you will be a good writer. Good luck.